Welcome everyone to the project kickoff meeting of Antenna Group's reward management project. I'm very excited to introduce my two colleagues here, Mr. Paul and Mr. Fondrier, and say we really are looking forward to doing this work with you. It has always been a pleasure, and I'm sure this time will be no different. Just a reminder for those of you who have forgotten what exactly we're doing, we will be setting up a global grading framework for the organization. What that means is we'll be evaluating every role within the Antenna Group, assigning it a global grade, essentially a number, a weight that would allow us down the line to compare roles internally for internal equity and of course externally for external competitiveness. And what this is a wonderful framework that allows us to have an underpinning for all future reward management work that we might do or Antenna might do independently. So, as I'm sure you know by now, at Towers Watson we do have a three-step approach: diagnose, design, and deliver. We start with the diagnosis. That is very simply getting to learn our client. As much work as we might have done, it's important to know, what does this project mean for you? How will it prevent you being kept up at night? And does it fully align with the needs and desires of the organization? In essence, we want to make sure that the work we're doing does get you from A to B, and it's not work for the sake of work. Secondly, the design stage, my personal favorite, that is using Towers Watson's proprietary tools so that we can evaluate each role. Importantly, we talk all the time about jobs and roles, not about the individuals who have these roles. Using this methodology, we also will train the Antenna team to be able to become experts in using these calculators, so that you can continue to do this wonderful work once we've left. And finally, the delivery stage. Essentially, what you'll be left with is a map of the organization that will see potentially a new organizational structure. It might not be from a hierarchical point of view quite what you see today, but it will be from a rewards point of view. Sometimes only by seeing that bigger picture do we really appreciate how things fit into place, and by going to the minutiae, we can see how perhaps what has been designed in the past isn't quite right for us going forward. So from a management standpoint, we do plan to have quite regular contact, weekly updates in the form of project status reports. These will be essentially a form that will be filled out by our team that allows you to see what we've done, what's gone well, what perhaps has not gone as well, and to make sure that you'll see essentially if we are on track or not from a timeline point of view. And this is ways of making sure from an administration point of view, we're ticking our boxes and you're seeing how these boxes are being ticked. And within the scope of this project, we do allow for a weekly call between project manager, that would be myself, and the team, so that you will have the opportunity to highlight any issues you might have with some of these reports, or perhaps question something that might not be as clear as we want and need it to be. And then, of course, we will have a monthly update, given the fact that this is expected to be a 3 to 4 week engagement. 3 to 4 month engagement. There will not be too many of these, but what this allows for us to do is to have an occasional break, a step back, to take a breather, and make sure that perhaps all those little things that we've let slide or have not done are done. And penny makes a pound, as my grandmother says. Putting lots of little things together can lead to something quite large. And so this is a monthly reset with a loose agenda to make sure that we are doing things as we want and need to be. Importantly, these will be the opportunities to perhaps make changes to our project. Sometimes only during the process do we realize that we have undervalued or overvalued a part of the structure and of the project, and it allows us to course correct and forever make sure that we are, again, where we want and need to be. Yes, we do have these structured weekly and monthly chats, or ideally in-person meetings, but that doesn't mean we will not be there for you throughout the week as well. Of course, our offices are only around the corner, so we're always happy to pop by. But if things pop up, when things pop up, we are, of course, always going to be there for you. That is our job as your consulting team. And just a personal issue of mine that comes up in a lot of projects, vacation and leave. We have spent a lot of time trying to finalize or really put together a very structured, quite high-paced engagement here. Should there be cases whereby team members do need to take leave or are going on vacation, we do request that this information is shared with us as far in advance as possible, at least a week, so that we can be kept abreast of who will be filling that role, if anyone, so that they can be caught up. It is important to understand that there are certain elements of this project that we would not be able to involve members outside of the core team. It's just too much information, very sensitive work, and quite simply some rather complex processes that we'll be going through that they wouldn't physically be the time to keep training new members, especially if they're only going to be on the team for a week or so. Not something to spend too much time on, but something I did want to raise at this point. It's important, of course, for everyone to be aware of who's in the team and what their roles are. As things stand, we are a 6-person team. I will be taking the lead on all matters that relate to Towers Watson and deliverables, so managing my team and our stakeholders. But Michael and Elias, phenomenal individuals who do know their stuff. And though I put myself as the subject matter expert on this project, I've trained my boys very, very well, and they're on this project because they will add value to the team. And should you need anything along the way, please do feel free to touch base with them. They'll be more than happy to help, and I'm sure you would be more than happy with what they can offer. And everything is explained on this page. The one cause of concern for me is that TBC. As I mentioned, this work is quite complex, and the training process takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of desire. And so anyone who's not part of this team, come training day, I would request is not added to the team. So Ms. Muskenham, perhaps we can take this offline to discuss this in greater detail, or perhaps we can in our Q&A session after this presentation. It is imperative to understand that once we get going, it will be all systems go. So that box does need to be locked in sooner rather than later. I mentioned before that we will have a wonderful project status report for you to see. As you can see, we are planning 3 months. Major issues, major risks, key achievements. This will all be documented, and that bright little box in the top right corner, that will tell you where we are relative to our timelines. Green, that's what we want to see. It's what we expect to see all the time, if possible, at least almost all the time. That means where we want to be. An amber color, yellow if you will, that means we are 1 up to 2 weeks behind. This is something that we can certainly claw back on. This isn't too much of a worry, and is to be expected realistically on such a consulting project. Red, this is when we do have issues. Of course, it's always important to know who's at fault, just so we can course correct, not to put any blame on anyone. But if we're hitting red, that means we are 3 to 4 weeks behind, and this is something that we would need to move forward with ASAP. Next steps. The first 2 essentially come to the same issue of meeting the CEO. These projects tend to succeed based on how well they're received by the CEO and senior management. Once we get the big dogs on board, the rest tend to follow. So I do propose a half-day session off-site to go through all of this with the CEO, make sure that we do have his full blessing and his full understanding, so that whatever we do together is really going to be pushing the company forward and moving that needle with regards to what he wants and expects. And the second point is, in order to have the highest quality job grading, we do really need to have the manager of each position doing that work with us. Of course, he's a busy man. Ms. Muscanal, we know how great you are at this. If need be, we can do it together, but it would be ideal to have him on board, because these global grades, as you know, they cascade. So if a manager is, let's say, a 16, his or her team will be 15s, 14s, so on and so forth. So getting those positions really are key. And then finally, much comes down to admin. It's locking in a date for training. As I mentioned, the training is what we need so that the antenna team can be up to par, so that they can really get cracking and we can get cracking to do this job evaluation work. And we need that to happen before we start the grading sessions with top management, which means we also need on your end for you to lock in some sessions. These do take anywhere from half a day to a full day per management member. So that could take us up to 12 days, which is a lot of time to spend just gathering information through interviews. So if you can look at these dates that we've proposed, let us know if they work so that we can lock dates in and move forward. And finally, everything we do is about making sure that everything's aligned. So we don't want to be walking into these meetings. We have one description for a role, manager has another in his head or her head, and find that we are battling. If you can make sure that before we begin, everything has been signed off, so we can not have the stop and start and things are in place, then we'll be good to go. And all that's left now is to say again how excited we are, and we can begin the open forum process and start from here. Thank you, everyone. We are really, really looking forward to this.